Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we are discussing a beautiful handmade watch from Pforzheim, Germany, from Jochen Benzinger, the man whose name is on the dial. This is the GAP1, and it's based on his GAP1 deep blue configuration, but this is a deep blue special that differs from the standard deep blue in some of the colors and details of the dial. So as you can see on the reverse side, while all Benzinger watches are advertised as unique, this one truly is a one of one. So we can note about Pforzheim, where this is made. Pforzheim has a reputation as being a traditional center of arts and crafts in Germany, though not always watchmaking. Watchmaking is associated with Glashütte, with Dresden. Pforzheim is where you find a lot of other artisans, particularly jewelers, goldsmiths, silversmiths. It's where Glashütte Original has its dial factory. It's where the Schäufele family, who purchased Chopard in the 60s, originally hailed from. They were German jewelers before they owned Chopard, and that is where Jochen Benzinger is based. Now, Benzinger is one of the world's foremost authorities in any kind of wristwatch artisanal craft that involves cutting metal. So guilloche with an engine, freehand engraving with a burren, and skeletonization with a jeweler's hacksaw. All of these are invested in the watch you see here. In steel, a steel case that is made in Germany, like the watch itself, maybe not as big as you would think. It's 39 millimeters in diameter, it's 13.4 millimeters thick, and it's 48.9 millimeters from lug to lug, with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. You can see that the strap is held on using screws and bars, a more expensive arrangement than spring bars, but also more secure. The strap is very high grade, as we have here large and medium symmetrical rectangular scale alligator leather, speaking to a very high grade cut of the animal. There's a little bit of stuffing or bolstering to give it volume. It has a folded edge monotone stitch calfskin that is buttery soft on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging, a brand new Benzinger OEM strap. We have a buckle that features Benzinger's logo engraved onto the clasp, and you can see it's a double fold twin trigger release in stainless steel, just like the watch. Rolling around the case, you can see that the lugs are sharply broken out from the case, a little bit like a Chrono Swiss or a Breguet. The bezel, some of the details on the crown side, and the lug hoods are polished. The rest features a vertical satination, a bit different. Normally when you see satin on the flank of a watch case, it's longitudinal, running from one end to the other. We have a crown that features polish and media blast, an unusual diagonal knurling. It feels, though, and sounds fantastic. We've got a little shouldered pusher that allows you to adjust the radial date indicator that sits at roughly 4 o'clock on the dial. And then if I pull the crown out, I can activate hacking seconds and hold the seconds hand and set the watch precisely to a reference time. The bezel is conical. I'm going to throw it on my wrist to give you a sense of how it wears. It's a big watch in terms of how it fits, and that's not necessarily down to the dimensions. 39 is pretty compact, but the shape of the lugs means this wears more like a 41 or a 42 millimeter watch. So think of it that way, and consider my wrist here at 16 centimeters circumference, actually the smallest wrist that could probably wear this well. Otherwise, you're probably going to get the lugs hanging out over the edge of the wrist. That said, it's not as thick as it looks, and with a sloped bezel, it will slide underneath a dress cuff. So, the dial. It is a disc of sterling silver, and you can see it has several different cuts. So we have a barleycorn cut around the center dial, all rose lathe work, exacting, slow, and done using traditional reductive engines. We have these rosette patterns on the sub-registers, and then maybe a vague wave or a quai de poisson fish scale cut around the edge of the dial. And of course, we have some elements here that are really beautiful when you get close. You can see that these Breguet-style hands in steel have been immaculately polished, that the sub-register hands have a lovely counterweight quality, that these tracks for reading the minutes, the seconds, and the date, they've all been brushed beautifully. They overlap in a wonderful fashion, including little cutouts so they interlock, and then they have blue lacquered indices that pop with color and are rife with character. You can also see that the dial is off-centered. Everything's been shifted up a little bit, so the hands that anchor the dial, they are above the center of the dial proper. Taking a quick look at the case back, This is described as Benzinger's first in-house movement. I'm not quite going to give it that much honor. It is definitely highly modified by Benzinger, but anyone who spent a lot of time in a Valjoux 7750 is going to immediately recognize this train design, and particularly that hacking lever. Oh yeah, I've seen that before. So this is the core of a 7750, and it's basically a Habring A11. Richard Habring in Austria modified the Valjoux 7750 to remove the automatic system and the chronograph to create a manual wind base called the A11, and this is that. So it is a manual wind, 30 millimeters in diameter. It preserves the size of the original movement, so it nicely fills a big case back. 4 hertz beat rate, 48-hour power reserve, 19 pivot joules, and of course it's got the quick set button for the date and the hacking seconds via the crown. It has a Carl Haas chronometer grade balance, which is a big upgrade over a standard Valjoux. And then you can see that it features an enormous amount of customization here. By the way, 100 meters water resistant. You might not expect it, but if you put this on a water resistant strap, it is swimmable. So Benzinger has entirely skeletonized the 3/4 plate using a very tiny hacksaw, and then you can see he's freehand engraved what remains of the bridge. We have two different platings. We have rhodium plating and silver, and we have rose gold plating, and you can see the rose gold and the rhodium are actually engraved with different patterns and textures. We have a black polished crown wheel core, and then both the skeletonized ratchet wheel and the crown wheel outer track, the toothed outer portion of the crown wheel, those have been fired blue along with the other screws in the movement. You can see we have this lovely engine turning underneath the click, and then we have satination on the click and the click spring. We also have a few well-polished screws. And then if you look underneath, you can see the base plate has been cut on a rose lathe that has a rayon pattern radiating out from an imaginary center point underneath this 4 hertz balance. And if you look really carefully, you can even see the bridge for the escapement, for the escape lever. That has also been turned on a rose lathe, which is deeply impressive. And the closer you get, the more impressive it becomes. You can even see interior angles where some of these bevels meet, and the degree of detail that Benzinger lavishes by hand on every single one of these. And with 48-hour power reserve, it's quite respectable for a manual wind watch. And while this is advertised as Benzinger's movement, it's not really. It's a combination of Valjoux and Habring and Benzinger. But all of the blood, sweat, and tears, that is Benzinger. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.